everyone. Thanks for joining. I want to introduce you to a incredible woman that I feel so blessed and lucky to know and to have or to be working with. She's past the point of needing me, but we're still in our space, in each other's spaces, which is such a blessing. So, Clara, will you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about what you do, and we'll start from there.
Yeah, I'm Clara Wisner, and I found you, Myra, when I was struggling deeply with my first kiddo. She was about, I think, 8 months old at the time. So that's how I met Myra, and there's lots to that story, as I'm sure we'll get into. And I am a fifth dimensional nutritionist, which is what I'm calling myself these days. Which I could explain that for a while, but really what it means is that I work with mostly women on nutrition, but I'm also looking at like the spiritual, emotional, mental, and then the physical body, and really taking into account all pieces. And so as to how this like applies to the work that I've done with Myra and like the work that we've done together, it's like I'm a seeker, right? And I'm always kind of like hoping to get to the very deepest root cause, you could say. And I'm just super willing to like experiment. And it also means that I'm kind of in a world that's like a little fringe, a little like outside of the conventional, right? So the way that our family lives and the way that we parent is like very unconventional in a lot of ways. And that's just kind of where I'm coming from my standpoint.
I'm really excited for you all to get to hear Clara's journey, sleep experience and sleep journey with her daughters, but also herself. She's had to work on her own sleep as well. And I just feel like she gives an angle to this journey that a lot of us have a difficulty accepting. And so I feel like putting that out there will give us all just so much permission to accept that perspective and that angle that is sometimes hard to accept. So thank you for sharing. And let's start from the beginning. Connected when Alma was 6 months old, I believe.
Yeah, so when Alma was 6 months old, I found out I was pregnant with Maya, and now they are about 2.5 and 1.5. So, it wasn't planned. It was perfect, but it wasn't planned. And I was really struggling to get enough sleep myself, just struggling, feeling really lost as far as how to get my baby to sleep was really what it was. It was like, I kind of had this idea, this very ignorant idea, truly it was, that I was going to just have this baby. And I did all this research on all these different aspects of pregnancy and birth and new babyhood, but I didn't do anything for sleep. Like I literally was like, she'll just sleep when she's tired. And I didn't even really create like an opportunity, an opportunity for her to like sleep, like naps. So she was only 6 months old when we met, and maybe like 8 months old when we really started like working on her sleep. But that was like 6 to 8 months of like, just, no structure, no like trying to provide even like a quiet environment for her to fall asleep. I was like, I'll just wear her and we'll co-sleep and bed share and it'll all be great. And it did actually work just fine until about 6 months when it really stopped working, where she wasn't napping at all. She would like fall asleep on my boob and then like wake up 20 minutes later, really upset. She was really unhappy and like just fussy the whole day. And then she was waking up, 20 times a night. And I was just bed sharing, co-sleeping. So I'm passing her back and forth from side to side, trying to get her to sleep, nursing all night. And then I got pregnant and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I can't do this, And I'm sure if any of you are out there and you're thinking about how you came to sleep training, it was probably something similar. Like, I think a lot of people are resistant to getting help or like support unless there's really an extreme thing going on. And I kind of have both perspectives because once Maya was born, I was already working with Myra. And so we like got to experience kind of having the support. And there were times when we really needed it with Maya, but we weren't like in this bind from the very beginning of working with you. It was kind of like, here, just give me your insight. Like, how can I kind of set this up? And you can definitely see that with the way that Maya sleeps now and how much easier everything has been with her. And so what we did with Alma initially with you was like, I was very, and still am in a lot of ways, resistant to sleep training, because I was very like in the world of like, sleep training is bad. It's dysregulating to the baby. It's, basically like heartless, right? It's like, how could we do this to our kids? And so what we did with Alma was really, and I obviously knew that Myra wasn't going to suggest that I do cry it out because I had read her website and I had trusted the people that referred me to her. So it wasn't like I was worried about that, but there was still this deep-seated like belief that sleep training is bad and that no amount of sleep training is a good thing. And so with Alma, really all we did was just really commit to a schedule with Myra's help and like really commit to like getting her to sleep. I think at first when she was like 8 months old, we were having her sleep 4 times a day, which is like, way back when babies are like, I don't know, 3 months old. And like, and so we were walking with her on a pack or in the stroller for hours every day to get her to sleep and get like at least 45 minutes of sleep. And then we like transitioned, over time to doing 3 naps and then 2 naps. And then we were then by the time we got to 2 naps, we were kind of like caught up to like where she quote unquote should have been. But she and still is so sensitive to any like change in the routine. So it's like we would miss a nap or we would be in the car for a nap and it like, it would throw her off for a week. And that was like where having your support, Myra, was so key because and she even like, you warned us, you were like, it gets worse before it gets better. And it's always like right at the point where you think you're going to break and you can't do it anymore, that the benefits start to show up. And that has been so true consistently across the board in these like last 2 years or however long it's been. And yeah, and so we got, Alma, we kind of had like off and on, like we would get good stretches and, we did have a really huge win around when Alma was like a year old. And so right around when I was very pregnant and about to give birth, Alma was sleeping really great. And so she was sleeping in her own room. We never did any sort of like leaving her. It was just a really natural, gentle transition to her sleeping on her own and sleeping through the night. And then, we had Maya, and then I think there was a lot that happened, with Alma and like the dysregulation that having another sibling causes. And then we kind of had like some rough patches again, with Alma as, and then we had these 2 babies. But I think the important thing to speak to here and that Myra was kind of speaking to as far as like these places where people get really kind of bunched up about sleep training. And well, is there anything you want to add to that? Like while I'm kind of
Yeah, and I actually wanted to ask you where you decided that Alma, it would be, you just intuitively knew she kind of needed her own space, so a turning point.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we we're similar in terms of like the ideal is to get to share a sleep space, enjoy those cuddles through the night, and sometimes it's just not what our baby's body needs or what our body needs. So was wondering if you could just kind of touch on that piece as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So part of this natural transition of Alma like moving into her own room was we were making headway as far as like having more consistent sleep, sleeping better through the night. But there was a way that we were still bed sharing and Alma was sleep. So we would put her down for bedtime. And then Sean and I, my husband, would go and, watch TV or hang out or whatever, and then come back in at 10 and she would always wake up. And then it would create this whole thing where then she's like, and it really started to sink in that like, I'm waking her up, like we're waking her up. And then she's getting dysregulated and then that's creating like a lot of broken sleep. And so I was just like, I'm just curious, like if we didn't wake her up, e.g. if she was in her own room, like would she sleep through the night? And the first time we did that, she slept like 12 hours through the night. So we just put her to sleep in a different room and like didn't wake her up. And then she slept through the night. And that was pretty consistent for like that was really until Maya was born. She still had some, things, but like, and would wake up and my husband would go and like sleep with her sometimes, but like it was so much better once we did that. And she was young, like less than a year old, maybe like 11 months or something like that. And so that felt like a big kind of wake up call to me because I'll just say this, like I think of going through the sleep training process for me was like a big ego death. And if people don't like understand what that means, it's like, our ego is like these different identities we hold, right? And we have these ideas about who we are and what we stand for and what we value. And it's all good. It's all fine. Like, we like to, especially in spiritual communities, we like to talk about the ego as if it's like this bad thing, but it's just a reality of being human. We're going to have different identities and values, and hopefully we choose those things consciously. But like one of the values and identities I was just so gripped onto was this idea that I was not someone who like, I was a crunchy mom, right? I'm this mom that wants to regulate my kids' nervous systems and wants to be there all the time. And I want to breastfeed as long as I can. And, the whole attachment parenting philosophy. And so I had this really strong identity around this like co-sleeping bed sharing idea. And then what I saw was that Alma did better without that. And at that certain time, I don't know if I still believe like babies want to sleep with their mamas when they're younger, but definitely for both. And I will say this for Maya too, they both do better not bed sharing with me, and I do better not bed sharing with them. And that's a huge chicken or egg type situation, right? Because it's like, well, if mama's nervous system is regulated more, then baby's nervous system is regulated more, right? And that's, I think, a big like missight on the side of like this kind of crunchy mom bed sharing like view, is that it's like mama, like the thing that they're talking about a lot is like how mama and baby are the same. It's the mother baby dyad, right? They talk a lot about that. And the mother baby dyad is like the idea that like we're really one being, like mama baby, it's like one being, even far into like 1, 2, even sometimes 3, 0 to 3 is kind of the age range that you're talking about. And so the idea that like it's like, what regulates me though, right? Because if I'm regulated, then they're regulated. And there's a lot of women that I don't see this being talked about anywhere on the internet, but like because I've searched, trust me, but like I know that there has to be other people like me who felt so dysregulated by a baby just kicking them all night and trying to nurse all night and moving around the bed all night. And I wish it wasn't true. I can't tell you how much I wish it wasn't true that dysregulates me so deeply. By the time Maya came, I was co-sleeping with her for 6 months. And then she started going through, even with all the naps and the schedules and the routines that we did with the help of Myra, and just from the knowledge of like going through all of it with Alma, we were way better with the sleep with Maya. Around 6 months, she just started to need to nurse like 20 times a night when I was bed sharing with her. And I was, a year and a half of 2 pregnancies, 2 newborns, a toddler, so much shifting in my life. And yeah, I was like burnt out, like so burnt out. And so, I was like so incapable of like regulating, and I just needed sleep. And I'm not even really saying that this is necessarily like the best thing, but I know that it was the best thing for my kids, for me to be regulated. And for me to be regulated, I needed to get some sleep. And so that's kind of what happened after, when Maya was about 6 months, I started having this intense insomnia. Like I already had some with Alma. I actually remember, I totally forgot about it, but I had some really bad insomnia, and I did all this Kundalini yoga for insomnia, all these kriyas, and it helped. And that was how I overcame it the first time. But the second time it was laying down to sleep at 8:30, not sleeping until 8 a.m. the next morning, like just laying there awake. And I tried everything, like everything on the planet, and this was about 9 months ago now, and I'm just starting to like get normal sleep again. So yeah. So that's just like this happened, all this stuff happened, and it was just so clear to me in those moments when I was like, my nervous system was so fried, that it was like, whatever is going to get me sleep is going to be good for my kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's hard to get to that point, because I feel like the narrative that we've been believing as a whole in terms of a culture, especially the attachment parenting culture, is that it's about self-sacrifice. Like, how much can you give to ensure that your ego be maintained, like you were saying. And we become martyrs, but then also our kids become martyrs, because we're broken. We're just so broken at the end of our sacrifice. And like you were saying, we're a whole. Like, our child is, whether we like it or not, an extension of us. And so they become broken when we're struggling so much. I would love to hear your thoughts on that, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Yes, that's, I mean, it's just, it touches right to the quick of it, right? It's like, and this is where, and that's why it's kind of important to hear like about what I do for work and for really like my practice of life. And I really look at life as my practice. And one thing that I am so connected to is the service that I'm in for my children. And the way that I talk about service is different than maybe people are familiar with. So when I say it, like I'm in service to my children's souls, I mean, like, I am in service to their unfolding. That's what it means to me to be a mother. And that service is not martyrdom, because martyrdom, like exactly like you said, then it just perpetuates the cycle of martyrdom. And when you really are connected to the energetic of service, you take care of yourself, because I cannot serve unless I am well taken care of. And so I have these deep held beliefs that I have done the work to actually consciously and fully like connect to. And I've already had this belief and this connection to service in my work and with as a mother. And then I'm having this experience where I am so fried and dead and depleted. And I'm just like, there's like this deeper part of me that's like, what? Like, this is not aligning. Like, what is happening? Right. And I thought like this attachment, and I love attachment parenting. I think it's like the gold standard, but like, I do think that there's ways that when our egos get involved and we have these identities and we take things at like face value and we just like run with these statements, right? Like bed sharing is the best and is necessary. Then we're not able to feel into the nuances of like, what about my family though? And like, what about me? And what's actually going on here? And so I felt like, yeah, this is like massive just misalignment. And it took me these like 9 months really, and still, to kind of bring it back into alignment and really get clear and work through and unpack like what was actually bringing me out of alignment, and what does being in service to my children actually mean for me in this moment now with what's going on. And and very much so, like, how does that translate then into what they're going to take away, what I'm imprinting on them? Because that's so important to me. Like, one of the most important things, and one of the main reasons that I do the work on myself that I do, is so that I don't pass it on to them. And so if I'm just over here sacrificing my well-being, seeing myself crumbling and like just being completely dysregulated and depleted, what am I teaching them? Like, what am I actually giving them here? Like, what's actually being passed on? And that's it, exactly. Like, the self-sacrifice is what's being passed on. The not taking care of yourself is what's being passed on. The idea that there's some sort of like that like my needs are secondary, and what I want to teach them is that their needs are first and foremost. And we think we do that by putting their needs first and foremost, but no, we do it by modeling putting our own needs first. And so my needs come first before my children's needs, always. And when I say that, people are like, what? But I'm like, because I'm so in service to them. It's not selfish. It's not like I'm like, well, I need to take all the money for myself and I need to have my facials and my massages and I have time for you kids. Like, no, it's like, I'm going to make sure that I am the most embodied, filled up woman so that you have at least one example of that in your lives, right? Because they're both women and they're both girls. They will be women. And that's just so important to me that they have that modeled. And that doesn't look in a lot of ways what society would say like is a good mother, right? Like, I've spent a lot of time in the guest room by myself while my husband does a lot of the wake ups, because the wake ups are so dysregulating to me, have been so dysregulating to me. My husband wakes up with them every single morning so that I can sleep in, because I sleep like shit. And a lot of times in the morning, for whatever reason, I sleep better. And so, yeah, I also have like an incredibly supportive partner, which was also a very intentional, choice on my part. And so, yeah.
This is amazing. And getting to, like you said, the root of everything that we avoid. I avoid talking about, that I avoid exploring.
That is exactly what I'm in service to in my work, is the deepest thing. And I say that and people are like, what's that? And I'm like, it's a sensation. It's like it's like hard to describe what it is, but like, that's it right there. Like, so the way that I'm in service to my girls in my motherhood journey, I'm in service to that deepest thing in my work. So I'm constantly like, attuning my clients to the deepest thing and attuning myself to the deepest thing and feeling into like, what is the deepest thing here? And it is exhausting to be friends with me sometimes, and my partner, I'm sure, because it's like, I can't let it go. But like, I just like that you said that, because I'm like, yes, that's what I'm in service to. You felt it.
And it's a lot of it's returning to, okay, what's true here? And knowing that your foundation is truth is so stabilizing. And there's a security in that. And I just know that your daughters are so blessed to have that as their foundation, to have truth and service as as what their mother is her whole life is founded on. And it's powerful. This year though has provided some challenges. So even sleep training in itself, when you decided to make that choice to get better sleep, and that sleep training needed to happen to get there, could you talk on that experience a little bit?
Yeah. So, we had been blessed with just working with Myra from day one of Maya's birth. And so when that 6-month-ish mark came around and I was having this intense insomnia, and her sleep was getting worse. And I mean, it was like, Sean was up walking her around in the backpack for like multiple hours in the middle of the night, just because she would not even, actually, Maya even like wouldn't even be calmed by nursing a lot of times. So it was really like movement that she needed. So it was like she wouldn't even nurse. She would just scream and flail, and I would try to nurse her. And so it was like really like, what, if you're breastfeeding mom, like, it's like the boob in the mouth always works, right? And so for her, and like, I will say for those of you out there, like, anyway, she was like exclusively breastfed. Like, she didn't have a lot of like, she has no health issues. Like, she didn't have colic or anything. So I think looking back on it now, it was me, right? And I've actually had a lot of sessions with an amazing woman named Angel Grant, who does like a lot of inner child work. And she's just like, Clara, like your nervous system is their nervous system. I mean, we've kind of touched on that with the dyad discussion, but like it's just like, you can't even parse them out. So like, if I was being so dysregulated in such an insomnia, and kind of blaming it on her in a way, right? I'm like, well, it's because she's moving around, but it's like, we are the same. So when I look back on it now, I'm like, yeah, because I was so dysregulated, she was so dysregulated, and it is the same. And like my friend Angel, that was like, you have to look at it like that. And it's not your fault. It's just like the truth. And so that happened for a good few months. And I kind of, as ego deaths tend to require, I broke a little bit. You have to break a little bit sometimes to actually like go through with like these ego deaths. And so I was so like broken that I was like, well, I'll do it. I'll do anything, we'll try anything. So we got the pack and play, and we put it by the bed. And we decided that we were going to help her learn. And this is another piece that like of my philosophy that doesn't always align with attachment parenting, but it's that I trust my babies so incredibly deeply. Even when they're little babies, like 6 months old, like I trust her, and I believed in her ability to like learn. And you know, the attachment model culture might say that I was like just traumatizing her, right, by like leaving her in the pack and play while she cried, which we never left her alone. We always were right next to her, singing to her, patting her a lot of the time. You know, she could see us. We never left the room, although that is part of like the gentle sleep training approach. Sometimes I never could feel like I could do that. But like, you know, but the whole time it was like, it was such a practice in tapping into that deeper thing for me. And the deeper thing was always like, she's okay. Like she is okay. And I would do all this energetic work with her where I was like connecting our hearts and like creating a back and forth and like a circle. And so yes, I wasn't touching her, but like I was regulating her with my energy. And interestingly too, like I did it. I did the hard nights of putting her in the pack and play, those first like 2 or 3 nights when it's like really it was just so different, right? She just didn't, it was different. We were bed sharing, and then we started doing this pack and play thing. And we, in the daytime, we would like, she loved the pack and play, you know, we like made it fun and like, and so we did like a whole process. It wasn't like we were just like, okay, now you're in the pack and play. But there was like maybe 2 or 3 nights that were really intense as far as the crying, you know, maybe like 90 minutes of like intense crying. And like, I did those, even though in some way, like there was part of me, like my mind that was like, well, maybe Sean should do it, 'cause he's not, you know, the breastfeeding. And, but I was like, no, I want to be the one there with her, like assuring her, you know, we are connected. I'm right here. You can do this kind of a thing. And after those first couple nights, like she got it, you know, she learned and she was happy. She, you know, she slept for like a good chunk, 4 hours for the first time in months, you know, and I did too, or kind of my insomnia took a longer to kind of figure out, but it was so much better, you know, to have my own space in the bed. And so, yeah, so sleep training, this gentle like sleep training was just something. And now seeing like we've still had like, you know, we have phases and ups and downs where it's been harder. And then we've had to like change some things and tweak some things. But for the most part, since then, she's been sleeping in the pack and play. And, you know, she'll wake up and maybe need a pat or two. But really, like, she gets it. Like, this is her bed. And I can feel in my system how much more settled her system is because of like the consistency. And what I've learned with Maya is that she just needs that consistency. And she just wants to know like what's going to happen and what's next. And so if we do the same things, she is way more regulated than, you know, kind of like the bed sharing, which we did have a consistent, but there's something about her having her own space in that pack and play. And she loves it. Like she loves her pack and play now to this day. And then eventually she was waking up more and more. And I just had this like intuitive hit that, and Alma was waking up more and more. They were both kind of going downhill and like they're sleeping. And I just had this intuitive hit, like just a couple months ago, that we should put Maya's pack and play in Alma's room. They wanted to be together. And when we did that, that was the thing that really has changed everything. And, you know, they're older and everything's like consistent, but like, again, it was just my knowing. And even Myra was like, I don't know, I think you should wait until Maya gets a little like more solid in her sleep. And Sean was like, I don't know, I don't think this is going to go well. My mom was like, oh, you're crazy. Like, what are you doing? And I was just like, I just feel it. I just think they're going to love it. Yeah. And like, they did first night, you know, and now it's just been so much better. They both just sleep through the night and they love bedtime. And Sean and I are sleeping better through the night, and we have our own bedroom back.
It's amazing. You all through this experience, well, you started by saying, firstly, like you're in service to their soul, to their unfolding. And it has, through this whole experience, it's this like thread of you intuitively knowing what the next step needed to be, as hard as it might have been.
And as different as, you know, like the first one, like moving Alma into her own room, like it was just like, that is not at all, it was never even in my mind to do that. Like I thought we would bed share until they were 8, you know, like I mean, I was willing to do that. That's what my mind wants, you know. I know that there are lots of moms that are like, that sounds awful, but I'm like, no, I would love to sleep with my kids until they won't have me anymore. But it's just not true. And it sucks.
I know. Exactly. And it's and that's, I feel like, part of what was so powerful getting to be on this side of your journey was to watch you have this connection with your children in such a deep way that you were willing to sacrifice these pre-assumptions, these pre-beliefs to meet their needs, to meet their soul need. And has been just so powerful to watch and witness, because it's not for me, for example, I was being so married to the idea of I will not allow any tears associated with sleep. Really convoluted, like really fogged up my ability to understand, really connect with what my child needed at a deep level. And so seeing what it could have been like if I eventually got there, but to have avoided so much pain before getting there, you were the example of what it would have been like to get there sooner. And so very powerful.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And it's like, that still wasn't easy either, you know. It's like, I think there's a way that like, no way is easy, right? It's like, and there's a way that this extreme like down of the depletion in that spot where I was like insomniac, you know, new mom with 2 young babies, like so tired, has given me so much compassion for, I still have, you know, strong held beliefs about parenting, you know, and egoic like ideas about what's right and wrong and what should be done and what shouldn't be done. And obviously there are parents out there, unfortunately, that like are not grown up enough really to like feel into like these young beings' needs and put those needs like, again, not before their own, but also like as very important as a priority. And so I understand all of that. But there's also this way that I'm just like, we gotta do what we gotta do, you know? And we gotta like I have no judgments for a working mom that, or oh my God forbid, like single mom, like doing like cry it out. Like, you know, we know that it's traumatic and I know that there's a lot there, but there's this other part of me that like I'm just like, I feel for you. Like I could see that spot, like where you're just like, I can't handle it anymore. And I don't blame the person for that. Right. I do blame society and culture that doesn't support mothers and that doesn't like that values a job over mothering. But anyway, there's just so much more like softness and compassion and like understanding, like, because of having been to that spot.
Yeah.
And that really was just because I just kept following, like kept being willing to use this as lesson and as teachings, and like, what are you trying to teach me now, life? Like, you know, on my knees again and again. Like, what are you teaching me? I'm trying to see it here. I'm trying, you know. So it's like yeah, we're all in it together, is my point. And this isn't about right or wrong or the way, it's about your way, and like really letting yourself feel what that is, instead of taking in all the noise.
Yeah. So good. So I guess this has been just so incredible. To wrap up, to finish, now that you're on, not that you'll never have like hiccups or like recovery to work through first in terms of sleep, but on this side of everything that you've gone through, is there anything that you want to share with our people, in terms of your experience in your journey, like any nuggets, like any takeaways that you feel like people would really need at this time if they're going through what you went through a year?
Yeah. I mean, I think kind of what I just said, like as far as like trusting your way and like really following each breadcrumb that you experience, not what I've experienced, and not like, oh my God, like not judging yourself, like punish yourself less, like don't use your life to punish yourself. Trust me, like you'll get enough pain without that to then, like, you know, turning it in on itself and like continuing to punish yourself with on top of what's already like so fucking challenging. Excuse me. And yeah, so it's like just like gentle, slow, like the real big nugget of lesson that I learned for myself. There's lots of things I learned, but the thing that's really like being taken in and like changed me and molded me is like the prioritizing the rest, right? And like the softness and the gentleness of myself. Like when you are that sleep deprived and there's still so much required of you because kids are needy. It's like moment to moment only. Like do not put yourself 5 years out or a week out, even just like, what do I need right now? And just like move in that way that's just so incremental, and like be willing to just do the next true thing, that next little step, just that and nothing else. Because when you're in that spot of so much like struggle bus times 1,000, just the next true thing is all you need to do. And then I think another like thing I learned from you is that, you know, it's like also commit to like whatever the outcome is that you want, and like really be audacious with that. Like be big with, like, I'm saying like go little, but I'm also like go big for like what you want your life to look like and what you want the outcome to be, because you can have it. There's just like, there's a way that when I have talked to other friends and people who have been through this, they don't really commit. Like it's kind of like, well, I wish this was it. And you have to take the strokes and you have to move with what's true. And that's the thing about truth, is that it's always moving. But like, there's also a way that there's like, I was committed to like my family feeling good and like us being healthy and well rested as a family, not just me feeling well rested, but my girls feeling rested, my husband feeling rested, me feeling rested. I was committed to the whole time. So there's like a deep commitment within the like moment to moment baby steps.
Oh, that's powerful. And
And one more thing, and get support, because Myra is being so kind and telling me like how, you know, I'm powerful and stuff, but like I could not have done it without her to lean on. And that's another thing where people just do not give themselves that. And you know, the money that I've spent, which by the way, you need to up your prices, but like, I mean, it's like so worth it. Like, can you imagine like the amount of like mental you know, overwhelm that was abated because I had this person that was like kind of a non-biased, calm party in those moments where I was just like, I can't do this anymore. This is, I have to, you know, and she was just there. It's like we get to share the burden. That's kind of what, you know, we evolved in tribes and we don't have that community anymore. And so I think of like these coaches and these support people as like my tribe. Like these are the people that I come to lean on when I can't do it myself. So you need that support if you're in these spots.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And if they would like your support, if they're going through anything in life right now, because you do life coaching, correct?
Yeah, I kind of do these like one-to-one alchemical journeys. They're kind of like difficult life situation doulaing. That's kind of what it feels like to me. It's like I get people who are getting divorced, or they're like motherhood is a big one, obviously, because that's where I am. But yeah, that's a big life event or like a sea change, you know. So I do some like longer term coaching with people. I do my 6-month program Fed is amazing for like nutrition, but then again, in my perspective, where we're like working with you know, the spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical body. And so Fed is kind of like my signature group program for that. It's powerful. We're starting again in January. And then I have like some little one-off stuff, but the best way to like just get a feel for me is like Instagram, and it's at Clara Lees Wisner, and my Substack, which is where I've written about these topics extensively. And that's just Trust the Magic. And it's like a Substack blog. If you don't know what that is, it's just substack.com and Trust the Magic.
It's powerful, you guys. Go follow her, go hire her. She's everything you see here and more. And I'm so lucky to know you and get to work with you and get to witness this last year and a half. So thank you so much for being here, for your time.
Thank you, Myra. I love you so much.
Thank you. Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining. Reach out with any questions, and we'll talk to you all soon.